community. That anyone inquiring of the Lord would go to the tent of meeting outside the camp, and whenever Moses went to the tent, all the people rose. Now listen to this. All the people. How many of them? All of them. All the people rose and stood at the entrance of their tents, watching Moses until he entered the tent. As Moses went into the tent, the pillar of cloud would come down and stay at the entrance, and while the Lord spoke to Moses. And whenever the people saw the pillar of cloud standing at the entrance of the tent, they all stood and worshiped at the entrance of their tent. The Lord would speak to Moses, listen to this, face to face, as one speaks to a friend. How amazing is that God would come and have this encounter with Moses. But look on down into verse 17. It says, and the Lord would say to Moses, I will do the very thing that you have asked, because I am pleased with you, and I know you by name. When Moses pleaded with God to stay, God says, I'll stay, because I know you. God knew Moses by name. Presence begins to flow out of intimacy, and God doesn't just drop his presence on people who are casual with him. He reveals himself to those who are actively pursuing him, who make space for him in their lives. Think about this for a minute. Think about your closest and dearest friend. Immediately somebody should have come to your mind. You didn't just become close by only checking in on once in a week with them or shooting a quick text. You know their voice. You know their habits. You know their laughter because you spent time together with them. That's what intimacy with God looks like. Do you know God like that? Not just about him, but do you know him? Oh, we can know a lot about God. There's a lot to know about God. Matter of fact, we have an entire book that's devoted to knowing about God. We've spent entire theologies and doctrines have built around knowing about God. But do we truly know him? Do we carve out the time and the space to listen to him and be still? God's presence is not for the casual. It's for those who hunger and thirst for him. Well, the presence of God reveals his glory. Moses here at this point asks a very poignant question. A question that I think that had any of us would think to ask it today, it would be considered a bit outrageous of a question to ask God or a statement to make to God. Moses says here to him, he says, after God had promised his presence, Moses prayed another bold prayer right here, and he says, now God, show me your glory. Show me your glory. That's a bold statement to make to God, isn't it? But look what he says in verse 19. And God responded, I will cause all my goodness to pass in front of you, and I will proclaim my name. Notice, God's glory wasn't thunder. It wasn't lightning. It wasn't fire. It wasn't this big, bold movement that sometimes we come to expect. It was his goodness. And it was his name. Moses couldn't see God's full face, but he experienced enough of God's nature to keep leading the people. God's glory was his mercy and his compassion, and it revealed his character. Sometimes I think we think about God's glory in the context of that it has to be this big, ostentatious thing, right? That it has to show up in the clouds and in the lightning and in the thunder and in the storms. And it's this big movement that we want to see. But oftentimes it's not like that. It's in the quiet ways. A bill that's been paid just in time. A healing that a physician can't explain. A peace that comes when you should be falling apart. That's God saying to us, here I am. This is my glory, and my goodness is passing by. What if we prayed more like Moses? A little bit more boldly, saying, Lord, show me your glory. Not for fireworks, but for a fresh revelation of goodness. In the valley of depression, in the middle of uncertainty, God's glory shows up as his presence carries us. Exodus 33 here is not just a story about Moses. It's a story about us, about you and I. Just like Moses, you and I can't move forward without the presence of God. Like Moses, we have been invited to intimacy, and God knows us by name. Like Moses, we can experience his glory, not just in this dramatic display, but in his everyday goodness. So here's my question for us this morning. Will we settle for blessings without God? Or will we hunger for his presence? Will we settle for the blessings without God? Or will we hunger for his presence? You see, just like Moses did, he said, Lord, don't send us if you won't go with us. You see, we need him to go with us.